On a quiet Thursday afternoon in the unassuming town of Erie, Pennsylvania, a pizza delivery man walked into a bank wearing a metal collar locked around his neck, a homemade bomb ticking down the final moments of his life. He was calm, almost casual, even snagging a lollipop as he handed the teller a note demanding $250,000. Minutes later, surrounded by police and pleading for help, the device exploded, killing him instantly. But what initially looked like a tragic case of coercion would soon unravel into one of the most bizarre, twisted, and meticulously orchestrated crimes in FBI history. A real-life puzzle of deception, murder, and manipulation so strange, it could only be true. August 28, 2003. The late summer air in the small mid-Atlantic town of Erie, Pennsylvania felt sticky and restless. It was quiet until a day that would turn its streets into the scene of one of the strangest crimes the nation had ever seen. At 1:30 p.m., a modest pizza shop called Mamma Mia's on Peach Street dispatched its usual driver, 46-year-old Brian Wells. He was a known face, quiet, steady, someone who shuttled around the suburban neighborhoods delivering lunch orders. But today, his shift would not end at another cheerful doorstep. It would end in a parking lot and in a violent explosion. The call came in from a payphone at a nearby gas station. 2 large pizzas to be delivered to 8631 Peach. Brian accepted the order and drove down the long dirt driveway that led to a television transmission tower. By that point, he was already stepping into something that had been laid out with cold, meticulous planning. There at the end of the lane beside the tower, someone approached him. Brian believed he was doing his job. But instead of payment and a tip, he was met by 3 men, he claimed, with guns. They forced a heavy metal collar, a homemade bomb device, around his neck. They told him his life would end if he didn't obey their instructions. The ramshackle collar, built from common household materials yet sinister in its design, locked around his neck and attached to a box-like device. It contained kitchen timers, decoy wiring, and real explosive powder. Investigators would later describe it as a terrifying work of ingenuity. He was told, rob a bank, collect the money, then follow a scavenger hunt of notes, clues, and tasks to remove the device. The first target, a PNC bank at the Summit Town Center shopping plaza. He was handed a typed demand note and told, fill the bag, get out in 15 minutes, follow the rules, or die. Brian walked into the bank at roughly 2:28 p.m. He carried what looked like a normal walking cane. In fact, it turned out to be a homemade shotgun disguised as a cane. And beneath his t-shirt was the bomb collar peeking out. In the quiet bank lobby, Brian handed the teller his note. $250,000, you have 15 minutes. He told her the device around his neck was a bomb. The teller told him the vault wasn't accessible, so she gave him roughly $8,700 in cash instead. He remained unnervingly calm. He even picked up a lollipop while he waited. Surveys caught him standing in line, collar visible, cane in hand. Then he left the bank, bag of cash in hand, walked out into the parking lot, slid into his Geo Metro, and began driving. A witness from the bank saw what was happening and phoned 911. Moments later, 2 Pennsylvania state troopers pulled Brian's car over. They approached cautiously. He got out, and the troopers removed him from the vehicle, handcuffing him. They looked at the collar. They realized, whatever this thing was, it was real. They cleared the area. Businesses evacuated. The bomb squad called in. Brian began talking. He said he was just a pizza delivery man. He claimed he had been taken hostage, forced to do the robbery. He insisted the bomb was real. I'm not lying, he said. The device began to beep. Moments felt like hours. Onlookers watched from the safe zone behind police cars. Brian squirmed. He asked the trooper to call his boss at the pizzeria, worried about his job. He clearly knew something was terribly wrong. Then, at 3:18 p.m., as the bomb squad was still more than a minute away, the collar detonated. The blast struck the pavement. A fist-sized hole ripped into Brian's chest. He fell back. In seconds, life drained out. It was over. The bizarre robbery had ended in death. But for investigators, this was only the beginning. They found in Brian's car a cane that turned out to be a homemade shotgun and an envelope labeled "bomb hostage," containing notes describing the next steps in the scavenger hunt, a treasure hunt for keys, clues, and combinations to remove the collar bomb. The instructions were written with precision, almost gleeful in their cruelty. It soon became clear. This was no mere bank robbery. This was a sadistic game. Someone was pulling the strings. Brian may have been the actor, but the director sat back and watched. Investigators from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, ATF, and the Pennsylvania State Police dug into the lives of Brian and the shadowy conspirators. Who was the puppet master? They found that Brian had worked at Mamma Mia's for about 10 years, lived alone, mostly kept to himself. He was described as quiet, non-violent, not the type to build bombs. Yet his notebook included odd names, prostitutes, drug contacts, a man named Kenneth Barnes. One of the key suspects was Marjorie Deal Armstrong, a woman convicted of murder in 1984, who had a history of violence. The FBI concluded she had solicited Barnes in July 2003 to arrange a bank robbery, the proceeds to be used to kill her father and collect her inheritance. The collar bomb plot was the mechanism. Another suspect was William Bill Rothstein, a part-time high school shop teacher and electrician, described by agents as matching the bomb maker profile. Capable of assembling complex devices, methodical, fearless. He died of cancer before he was ever tried. Kenneth Barnes eventually admitted that Marjorie asked him to kill her father, and that the bank robbery was to fund that murder. He said Deal Armstrong and Rothstein staged the bomb scenario and enlisted Brian for it, perhaps as a willing participant or a coerced victim. In 2007, a federal grand jury indicted Deal Armstrong and Barnes for conspiracy and armed robbery. The indictment listed Brian Wells as a co-conspirator, implying that he was not an innocent victim forced solely by terror, but may have been aware of or actively involved in the scheme. The case remains puzzling. Did Brian know the bomb was real? He claimed he didn't. Did the conspirators ever intend for him to escape? Many believe no. The device was made so that removing it was impossible. The scavenger hunt instructions would never have afforded enough time to complete them. Some suspect the sole aim was to kill Brian after the robbery so he could not testify. Meanwhile, in the quiet, eerie neighborhood where Brian's shift had begun that afternoon, the streets returned to their regular hum, but nothing would feel the same. The image of a pizza delivery man, calm and measured, walking into a bank with a bomb around his neck, remains one of the most chilling in modern crime history. The case still raises questions. Who was truly in control? Was Brian a victim or conspirator? Did the masterminds foresee his death as the inevitable climax? At least two of them are behind bars, Deal Armstrong serving life, Barnes locked away for decades. But Rothstein died with secrets intact. To this day, Brian Wells's family maintains his innocence, insisting he was an unwitting pawn in a diabolical game. Whether he was a conspirator who got cold feet or a tragic victim who never stood a chance, Brian Wells's death remains one of the most haunting moments in true crime history. The case continues to fascinate investigators, psychologists, and the public alike. not only because of its complexity, but because it revealed just how far a small group of people were willing to go for greed, control, and power. In the end, the collar bomb wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of manipulation, of sadistic control, and of a chilling truth. Sometimes the most terrifying crimes are committed not by monsters, but by people hiding in plain sight.